When you are producing milk for your baby, there are so many things to worry about. And often that worry really comes out when your parental leave is up and you now are leaving your baby with another caretaker. And your hope is to continue producing milk for your baby so that somebody else can feed the milk to the baby. And on my guest episode from this week, Lori talked about the difficulty she had producing milk for her baby and what she had to do to make sure that her expressed milk was not rejected by her baby because she had a very particular problem that I see lots of people ask about in online groups, but that there is not a lot of information about. So, if you have ever had difficulty with high lipase in your milk and have wondered what that really is, then tune in to this episode because you are going to know everything you need to know about that by the end.
When I began breastfeeding, I was blindsided by how difficult it was. I may have thought I was prepared, but having known only a handful of people who had ever breastfed and only seeing it up close from a couple of them, I had a huge learning curve. Since then, I've become a doula, a lactation consultant, and a childbirth educator. I'm your host, Lo Nigrosh, and I welcome you to the Milk Making Minutes, where we explore breastfeeding experiences through the lens of systemic barriers, so that you know your breastfeeding struggles are not your fault and your triumphs really are the miracles you feel they are.
Okay, so Lori tells this amazing story. I hope that you tune in to listen to it about her baby, her first child. She has two kids. And when her first was a baby, he started refusing the expressed milk. She was practicing for her return to work. She returned to work at about 20 weeks, and her baby would not take her expressed milk. And her partner, her husband, kind of jokingly took the bottle, brought it up to his mouth, took a little drink, and was saying something like, "Oh, this milk is so yummy. It looks so delicious. I want some." And he took a little drink and then he like spat it out in front of the baby and said, "Oh my gosh, this is really gross." And Lori was like, "What are you talking about? I've tasted my milk. It's fine." And then she goes to taste it too. And it turns out her milk was not fine. And it had a rancid taste to it. And so then she goes online. Her child is 11 today. So this was 11 years ago. She goes online, she starts to look it up, and she realizes that she might have high lipase in her milk. So this is not a super common issue, but it is common enough that I run into it pretty regularly. Those lipase enzymes begin working at different points after the milk has been expressed. The lipase helps to break down fats in the milk so that the fat soluble nutrients, vitamins A and D, for example, and free fatty acids, which help protect the baby from illnesses, are easily available to the baby. And the primary lipase in human milk is bile salt stimulated lipase, BSSL, and it has been found to be the major factor in activating protozoans, which is that cause of that rancid tasting milk. Now, the amount of this lipase, the BSSL, in a particular mother's milk does not vary during a feed, nor does it vary during different times of the day or at different stages in lactation. And so if you tend to be somebody who has high lipase in the milk, it's always going to be high lipase. And there is no indication that changing your diet can help with this high lipase issue. And so some people have excess lipase, or some people, the lipase just starts working really, really fast. So you'll hear in that story that Lori told that she did an experiment where she would taste the milk at 15 or 20-minute intervals. And she discovered that she had 4 hours from the time that she expressed milk to the time that the lipase would start breaking down the fats in her milk before the milk would no longer be tasty for her baby. So, once the milk becomes kind of rancid smelling or tasting, there is no known way to salvage it. It's still okay for the baby to eat if the baby will eat it. And so some people, they play around with, like, if you already have a bunch of expressed milk, um, and it's been frozen, like Lori in her story, she talked about throwing away about 100 ounces of expressed breast milk. So if um, your baby will tolerate some amount of the milk, you can mix milk, fresh milk with the frozen milk and see if they will take some amount of the high lipase milk because it is still safe for the baby to drink. It's just that they often don't like the taste. Now, you can still freeze milk that has high lipase in it, but it will not stop the lipase from beginning to break down the enzymes. So, what a person needs to do who has high lipase is they need to scald the milk soon after expression. And this means heating the milk to about 180 degrees Fahrenheit or 82 degrees Celsius, or until you see little bubbles around the edges of the pan. Not a full rolling boil, um, but uh, just little bubbly boil. And then you will quickly cool it and store the milk. Scalding the milk destroys some of the anti-infective properties of the milk and does lower some of the nutrient levels, but as long as they're getting some freshly expressed milk, either in a bottle or right from your body, then that's usually not an issue if the milk that they are taking from a care provider has been heat treated. One other thing to note about this is that so if you have already frozen a bunch of milk that has high lipase in it and you aren't able to mix it with either freshly expressed milk or milk that you've already scalded, you can still donate that milk because milk in a milk bank is homogenized. And so that process takes away the taste. And so it's usually not a problem for milk banks. So it does not have to go to waste. You can also still use it to make soap if you're into something like that, or to put in milk baths. So it doesn't have to be fully discarded, even if your baby will not take it for a feed. And then one other thing that I would like to mention is that sometimes if your milk tastes or smells sour or even rancid rather than soapy smelling, because when you have that high lipase milk, it's often kind of a soapy smell, then the problem might actually be chemical oxidation rather than lipase. Sometimes your intake of polyunsaturated fats may be involved, or free copper or iron ions in your water. And so when you think it's this, when it has a sour taste or smell or a rancid taste or smell, you can try avoiding your usual drinking water for a bit, or avoid fish oil, flaxseed supplements, and foods like anchovies that contain rancid fats. Or you can increase your antioxidant intake, including beta carotene and vitamin E, and see if that helps to change what your milk smells and tastes like, and to see if that corrects that the chemical oxidation of the milk. But typically, the more common problem is this high lipase issue, and you need to scald the milk. If you are looking for great tips for managing scalding your milk, especially while at work, definitely listen to episode 63 about making milk while returning to work without losing your mind, because Lori worked out a really great system that worked for her. And you can listen to that anywhere you get your podcasts, and I'll have it linked in the show notes as well. If you are looking for support on pumping, expressing milk for work, expressing milk for a caregiver, protecting your milk supply while somebody else is feeding your baby, I would love to be the person that provides that support for you. This is something that I did primarily for my lactation work for the last 4 years, and I feel very confident in being able to provide that support for you. You are the expert on your body and what you need to feel confident in returning to work. You are the expert on your baby. And I am the expert when it comes to milk supply, hormones, pumps, flange sizing, and various ways that you can both protect your milk supply and help your baby to take the milk that you express. Let's work together. Let's put our brains together and help you feel really good as possible going back into the workforce and providing that milk for your baby. You can reach out to me by emailing me at low@quabbinbirthservices.com or by going to my website and filling out the contact form there. Most of the time, I can do telehealth, or I can see you in person if you live close to me regionally. And many times I can bill your insurance. Additionally, please join my Milk Making Minutes community group, where we talk about all the things that make feeding our babies so difficult, including a lack of information when it comes to issues such as excess lipase in milk once it's been expressed. Love to see you there.